I just want to say welcome to everybody and happy AI Literacy Day. There are events happening all across the country and around the world. So we love that you're sharing in the chat where you're from, where you're tuning in from. We're happy to have you. So as part of the celebration of AI Literacy Day, we are presenting a live professional development series on AI literacy. And you can go to ailiteracyday.org/synchronous-pd for the full schedule, which I will link in the chat. Throughout the day, you'll have the chance to do a deep dive into the future of technology alongside leading experts. So for this webinar, we have Pam Washatimano. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, that was
okay, great.
On point. That was great.
The Director of Operations and Partnerships at TeachAI, and Micah Kennedy, who is the Professional Learning Manager at code.org. So they will be discussing AI 101 for teachers, and participants will learn how to explain AI to a colleague, understand possible uses of LLMs in your work, practice looking critically at AI mistakes, and discuss teaching AI. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please put them in the chat and we will address them at the end of the presentation. So welcome, Pam and Micah. We're so excited that you're here, and take it away.
Okay. Micah, are you sharing the screen right now? This is in your control? Okay, fantastic. It's lovely to meet everyone. I was just telling Micah, I had 2 cups of tea with a ton of sugar. So I am hyped. I am pumped on this Friday. Thank you for joining us. I noticed that we have a lot of professionals in this session that are technologists, that are teachers, that are potentially leaders of AI and education in their schools. So excited for you to be here. Really excited about this session. And I would just flag that in addition to hopefully learning from and enjoying the session yourself, what Micah will be presenting here today is what we found over our experience of training hundreds of educators on AI 101, that this is like a pretty good set of slides/approaches to introducing AI, what it is, to educators. And so 1, whether you learn from it yourself, or 2, you can take from this and be like, oh, maybe I'll do something similar with my group, with my school, with my community. So maybe those 2 different lenses for you to put on. Next slide, please. So hello, here we are, your friends from code.org. Our emails are there, but I'll put them in the chat later in case you all want to be in touch. If questions come up from this or later on, I'm excited to make new friends through this platform. Next slide, please. Okay. Do you think it's going to work? No,
we can try it. I don't know.
Oh, I think you had to present with Slido from the start. So I think, okay, it's fine. But we had folks introduce themselves in the Zoom. So I think we can skip this over. It was just for Micah and I to get a sense who's here. So I'm doing the welcome right now. This is Pam blubbering. This is the welcome. I'm excited to be here to celebrate National AI Literacy Day with some amazing partners. Thank you for joining us for this session. The majority of the time, you'll be with Micah, who will be working on talking about how AI works, and then they will hand it back to me, and I will talk about TeachAI for just a teeny tiny bit. And then hopefully we will not blabber too much. I will end my portion as soon as I can, so we can maybe have time for questions. While I am talking, while Micah is talking, while they are talking, please feel free to leave questions in the chat, and I will do my best to respond to them or keep them for later so that Micah can answer them, et cetera. So don't feel you have to be silent until the end. Feel free to engage with us through the chat also. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Micah, and they will take you through how AI works. Over to you.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, everyone. Happy to be here celebrating this AI Literacy Day. So the cool thing about AI is that you don't have to have a degree in it or spend 10,000 hours with it to use it effectively. So this presentation is going to show you a clear, actionable roadmap to get from AI 101 to AI Superstar. Well, maybe not quite Superstar, but we'll put you on the right path. And all of that will happen in less than an hour. I wish I had an hour, but I don't quite have an hour. So we're going to go a little bit quickly here. There's 5 main milestones that we're really going to go through today to define your journey to AI Superstar. And we're going to walk you through each one. So the first step is just being able to explain AI to a colleague. Then you're going to use large language models, that's tech like ChatGPT, to accelerate your workflow. Then you'll learn how to react when AI goes wrong, because it's technology, it's going to go wrong. And then we'll discuss how to teach with and about AI. And then finally, we're going to set you up with some great resources to continue your learning journey on AI. It's a lot to do. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing is I kind of want to see what you're thinking about AI and what you're hearing about AI. So take a minute and answer at least one of these 3 sentences. All 3 would be great, but at least one of when it comes to AI, what do you think about it? What have you heard your colleagues say about it? Or what have you heard your students say about AI? I'm going to do a good teacher pause here and give you a minute to answer at least one of these in the chat. Not surprised that the first response coming in is about cheating. That is something we hear every time we talk about AI. Totally understand where you're coming from. We're not going to get into too much about cheating, but we're hoping we're going to give you some understanding of how to think and approach that issue. Hearing some positive, some neutral comments, some negative comments, totally fair. Not everybody has their own emotions around AI. It's affecting everyone differently, which is awesome. We can talk about that a little bit today. I'm hearing saving time, potential. Those are big things we hear about AI as well, and something we want you to harness today, learn how to use AI to its potential. And we also want to address some of those challenges that you are all talking about, in addition to cheating, things like bias, misinformation, all of those things. So thank you for sharing. I hope I get access to this chat after this, because I want to read everybody's responses, and I can't right now while they're coming in. So we're going to go ahead and move on. But if you're still typing, definitely submit those responses, because we want to see them. So we're going to start with why should we care about AI? So first and foremost, let's talk about the time factor. So we know that the average teacher spends about 50 hours per week. And a tremendous amount of that time is in preparation, grading, feedback, administrative tasks, where the teacher doesn't directly interact with students. So check out this graphic from a recent government report showing that of those 50 hours a week, there's a lot of administrative tasks, 10 hours in preparation, 6.5 hours in feedback, and so on. We're also seeing a lot of hours being spent interacting with students, but that's only 49%. So that's less than half of the time you get as a teacher you're spending interacting directly with students. So AI can help expand this side of this pie graph, help you spend more time with students doing the things you love and less time with paperwork, administrative tasks, reports, emails that can bog down the everyday joys of teaching and why you got into this field. So reason 2. So we've all seen a huge surge in demand for AI skills. There are a lot of the usual suspects out there, things like AI engineers, data science. There's also brand new jobs like prompt engineer, AI enhanced jobs like content creators, trainers, researchers, and generally just professionals who can use AI to enhance their work streams. This is stuff you should know about, not only so that you have an idea of what's going on in the field, but also so you can help your students figure out what's happening with the job market today. Reason 3 is that Gen Z is embracing AI. You should remember the students' voice in this conversation. Students don't have the same level of worry when it comes to AI as millennials, Gen Xers, and boomers. They're embracing AI's potentials and in many ways pioneering how it's used. So Washington Post published a fascinating article detailing the many ways in which students are using ChatGPT. It goes far beyond writing essays and cheating on tests and all of those things that I'm sure you hear about. They're asking these bots to create workout plans, give relationship advice, suggest characters for a short story, make jokes, and provide recipes for the random things left in their refrigerators. For Gen Z, AI feels like a creative thought partner, seen here suggesting cute Valentine's Day gift ideas, or a supportive friend, chatting through the complexities of Dumbledore's character. Let's be honest, who doesn't want to be told, I can see why you might feel that way from time to time. So our students are already exploring the ways AI can help them in their everyday lives. And they're also exploring how AI can help them in school. We know from a survey by Common Sense Media that many students are using ChatGPT without telling their parents. While 50% of students aged 12 to 18 report having used ChatGPT for school, only 26% of parents report knowing about that same usage. It's up to us to facilitate an open dialogue about AI, like ChatGPT, to dispel fear, ambiguity, and secrecy that surrounds this tool. It's important for us to remember that students will be exploring AIs like ChatGPT, whether we're there or not. So we need to support them on their journey. But in order to do that, we know that teaching with and about AI can get intimidating. So first job is to put your mask on first. You need to figure out what to do and how to use AI before you can help support your students through their journey. We're going to put our masks on first. We're going to start with explaining AI to a colleague. So we're going to play a game. So there's a lot of AI texts out there. So let's see how many you're familiar with, because I'm sure you know more of these than you think you do. So in 60 seconds, try to name one technology you know of for each AI type. So it can be past, present, or even examples from a movie. For example, Tesla Autopilot would be a good answer for autonomous vehicle. You get bonus points for multiples in a category. So don't just list one if you know more than one. We're not going to make you share this out, but I want you to write it down, think about it, make a quick note on your phone. I will give you 60 seconds starting now. I think that was 60 seconds or right around there. So what is AI? So artificial intelligence has got a lot of meanings. ChatGPT is a big one that's taken over the collective consciousness, but it's by far the only one, and it definitely interact with at least one AI on a daily basis. When people say AI, they can mean things from the Terminator to TikTok algorithms to Google Translate or something to do with robotics. And it's important to know that AI is a pretty poorly defined term. That's because it's used in many contexts, from pop culture and to hard science. But what makes AI special compared with regular computer programs? What is AI other than just a poorly defined term? AI is a computer that learns. If you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, that's a pretty simplified definition, you're right, it is. But it's a helpful one because learning is what makes AI special compared with other computer programs. So if you see, AI basically reads a lot of text. If you read a lot of written text, you're going to learn how to write new text. So no one sat down and programmed ChatGPT with a manual of human language. Nobody taught it how to read and write. What it did is it read and read and read and read, and then learned how to write from that. It's the same for other AI technologies like recommendation systems. Spotify learns from your likes and dislikes and everyone else's likes and dislikes. What songs you'd love to hear next. Nobody interviewed you and asked you what your favorite songs were or interviewed your friends to learn about your music taste. The program learned from looking at a lot of data and looking at a lot of text. And generative AI is suddenly everywhere. We've got this whole generative AI business on top of AI. And how many of you seen something like this, or this, or this, or this? And it seems like nearly overnight, we've been completely inundated with generative AI that promises to write emails, make slide decks, correct your grammar, grade your students, and do your whole life for you. So you can just relax and drink your coffee. So let's make sure that we understand kind of what is this term as well, and where does this come in? So generative AI basically makes new stuff. It is AI that generates things. It can compose music, it can write poetry, it can create videos. We've seen deepfakes of Elon Musk's in ads. We've seen Stack Overflow traffic dropping by 14%, and even an AI generated Drake song that went viral on YouTube. So we've seen AI making these things. And AI is as cool as it is, it is also a double-edged sword. It has many problems and it makes a lot of mistakes. So we see the same technology can be used for many different purposes. For example, facial recognition is something that can be as simple as time saving to unlock your credit card with your face. Or it can be used to do something like recognize a person's face in immigration proceedings. It's not always positive, and the same technology can be applied in many different ways. Same with ChatGPT and other generative AIs. It's technology with many uses, from positive ones like coming up with new song lyrics and writing useful spreadsheet formulas to creating fake news and rude texts. ChatGPT has guardrails in place to help protect against harmful uses, but generally speaking, what this technology does is it accelerates writing for better or for worse. So now we're prepared to kind of meet our first milestone. You're going to practice explaining AI to a colleague. So share your wisdom in the chat and explain in your own words. You can pick one of the three of these things. What is AI? What is generative AI? Or give an example of AI and ethics. So choose your own adventure. Practice explaining one of these. Probably one more minute to give an example of AI. Good. See some coming in. And it's okay if you're not 100% sure. Part of learning and practicing speaking about AI is you're going to get it wrong sometimes. Nobody's an expert on this technology yet. It just hasn't been around that long. So it's okay if you're not sure about your definition. If you're like, I think I got the general idea, but maybe I'm missing some of the details. That's totally okay. That's where we're kind of all at right now. If you're still typing an example or a definition, love to see some more examples of ethics in AI come through. Go ahead and do that. I'll give you another 10 seconds. All right. Keep going if you're still typing. We're going to move on to using large language models to make work easier. This is one of the things that teachers always want to know about. What is a large language model? How do I make this work for me? The large language model, or an LLM, is a technology behind a lot of this technology you've heard of: ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Copilot, some of the AIs that you've heard about a lot in the last year or so. So let's break down this term a little bit because it'll help you give you some intuition about what these things are and how they work. So large, it's large, which seems pretty self-explanatory, but there's a little bit more to it. You can think of large as meaning capable. It just takes a lot of juice to run. It takes a lot of data to come in. It produces a lot of output. It just does a lot. And language is talking about its goal. Its goal is to communicate with you. It's not a knowledge model. These things don't know everything. They haven't read the entire dictionary and can't give you definitions from it. But what they can do is they can talk and speak with you. And it means that they can also code as well. For computer science teachers out there, that's a form of language. Then it's a model. So a model represents something in the real world. In this case, it's representing how humans communicate. So humans can say nice things. They can say true things. They can say wrong or evil and hurtful things. This is basically, the thing is, this technology has been basically read the entire internet and most of the books that have ever been written. And now it knows there's a lot of wild stuff out on the internet, even some unsavory stuff. So yes, it has read and understood and digested that as well. So it might be hidden or suppressed by those algorithms we were talking about before, but it's important to know then. It wasn't that these models were fed a lot of human communication from all ranges of the spectrum. So large language models, we'll get to students later, but here's kind of another your math reminder first. We're going to start getting comfortable with large language models by using them ourselves. So let's call AI your assistant. If you're a teacher, it's your teaching assistant. It can do things like draft parent emails, write rubrics, assignments, revise reports, come up with assessment ideas. It can be a collaborative partner. It's there as your assistant. However, AI needs your guidance. Just like a teaching assistant, if you got one from a local college, it can't do everything on its own. AI needs your knowledge and expertise to carry out its tasks. So when you open up the image generator on Stable Diffusion, for example, it's not going to do anything. You'll be staring at this box, asking you for a prompt. That's not all. Generally, the more information you give image generators, large language models, or other AI systems, the more results will reflect what you were seeking. So your inputs into the system will make or break its usefulness. So you kind of have to know, how do I talk to this program to get what I want? So we're going to practice, and this activity should have something for everyone. So we're going to spend some time exploring a large language model. So you can use one like ChatGPT, you can use Gemini, you can use Claude, you can use Copilot, which is, I think, Bing's AI, and you'll be able to, in this time, you'll have some time to either create an account if you need to. If you haven't used one of these systems before, just start by making an account and trying it out. But if you already have an account, feel free to kind of blaze ahead, start exploring, start doing something new. Make sure you get some time to explore these sample prompts and tools in this link here. Try to drop it in the chat directly if you can't click on it from the slides. But this has a lot of examples of prompts that you can try in any large language model. You can drop this in any one, and it will start giving you some answers. And there's beginner, intermediate, and advanced tips here. So choose your own adventure. If you're new, start by making an account, trying out one of these tools. If there's one you haven't heard of, feel free to try that one out. I know Claude might be the one that people haven't heard so much about. It has been unblocked in some school districts, so it might be a little bit more school friendly for you. Otherwise, ChatGPT, Gemini are good ones to start with. If you've used these before, check out these tools and prompts and try something new.
Micah, do you want me to try getting the sample prompts and tools into the chat? Oh, okay, you got it.
Yeah. We're probably only going to take about 5 minutes here just because we have a lot more content to get through. But I recommend if you do this with your teachers or in another setting, you're going to want longer. We're going to take one more minute here. Let's try out one more thing. Take a look at the prompts and tools if you haven't. Great prompting guide to share with teachers. All right. Like I said, I know that wasn't enough time, but I'm hoping we got you at least the links you needed in order to get started and continue to follow up on your own. So in the chat, as you're kind of wrapping things up, add just one way you can think of to use a large language model to accelerate your work. So this is something you could potentially want it to do, maybe the least favorite task on your docket as a teacher, something you've used it for in the past, something you hope to be able to use it for by the end of the year. Think of one way. That's a good idea, aligning the standards. I have not tried to get a large language model to do that yet, but that was one of my least favorite things to do as a teacher, was try to align to standards. When I taught computer science at high school, I was the only computer science teacher in really my district. So I would have loved to have a large language model just as a thought partner there, just to like throw ideas at, kind of like hear some new thoughts. It would have been amazing. Just no other teachers around that I could have done that with. Break standards into digestible chunks. Seen teachers use it to level text. So there's large language models like Diffit, where you can throw text in there and you can change the language, you can change the grade level of the text. It gives you the key vocabulary words. It's great for English language teachers and any teacher who's working with students who are learning English as a new language. Awesome. So keep throwing those in the chat as they come in. Like I said, we'll review them all, even if we're not seeing them all now. We're going to move on to the next part of this process. The next step in our roadmap is to acknowledge or fix AI mistakes regularly. So AI makes a lot of mistakes, just like any technology, especially any new technology. We're going to focus on two key ones: fictions, or what you might also heard called hallucination, and bias. So kind of the question we want to explore is, who has more Grammy Awards, Katy Perry or Barack Obama? Think for a second. You don't have to answer. I didn't know this answer when I first saw this question, but think, who might have more Grammy Awards? And we asked ChatGPT this, and it said that Barack Obama has never won a Grammy Award, but he's received many other honors like Nobel Peace Prize. And Katy Perry has been nominated for 13 Grammy Awards, but has not won any. So unfortunately, this is not correct. So AI makes mistakes in that respect. It's pretty human-like. So this example incorrectly states that Barack Obama has never won a Grammy Award. He's actually won 2 for spoken word albums. It does correctly note that Katy Perry has never won a Grammy, though. So although teaching assistants like AI are generally trustworthy, they can make mistakes. And similarly, even though AI is underpinned by powerful algorithms, these algorithms can't always tell fact from fiction or recognize the meaning of complex questions. Also, this information isn't always up to date. ChatGPT is still running on what it's learned from, I believe, 2020. I think 2020 is when it was, or 2019 is the data set it was trained on. So everything in the last few years, it knows nothing about. So AI systems also have limitations. They have guardrails in place to prevent misuse. For example, ChatGPT won't help you carry out an illegal plot. But these guardrails, but beyond these guardrails, systems also have actions that they can't perform. For example, as of May 2023, ChatGPT can't interpret images. I believe ChatGPT 4.0 can now. I don't know if 3.5 can or cannot yet. But there's also some examples of limitations in AI systems, even as this technology is evolving. So silly as it sounds, here you can see Midjourney really, really struggling to create an image of a bear with 6 legs. So on the left here, you'll see it was asked to create an image of bears with 6 legs. It had no idea how to do that. It failed it every time, even with multiple prompts. The image on the right is one from a Reddit post a couple of months after somebody was looking at that. So just something to keep in mind, that these limitations exist and AI can't do everything. So why does AI create fictions? This is just like somebody answering a really tough interview question. So have you ever had a job interview or taken a hard exam and you get to that question that you weren't prepared for, but you have to say something. You can't just say nothing. So large language models can get into that type of situation. They've got to talk to you. They don't really have the option to say no. They can't opt out of this conversation. They have to give you an answer, but they just don't know the answer. So they come out. So a lot of the time they're going to say something, but it's not necessarily true. It's earnest. It's trying to be helpful. It's trying to be clear, but maybe it didn't get the question or didn't know what to say, but it's got to give you something. And AI systems are biased. There are many examples of news that highlight bias in existing AI systems. And why are they biased? So these errors occur for many reasons. Many biases in AI systems have errors due to unrepresentative training data. In other words, garbage in, garbage out. It wasn't trained on a model that was unbiased. So the model created was biased. So a model trained on bias will produce bias predictions. However, bias can also occur from other causes too. For example, beauty filters have been flagged as making faces thinner, whiter, with lighter eyes. This isn't because it's missing some data, but because these were choices made for what defined beauty. So what rises to the top of Google search or YouTube may also be because of viral misinformation. And this model is picking up on engagement metrics or virality rather than the truth of the content. So model can also be gamed. One famous example is bringing a wagon load of cell phones to an intersection, and Google Maps says that there's a large traffic held up there. So there's a lot of ways to game these systems, as well as a lot of inherent biases in these systems that are still being worked out. So we're going to practice again sharing this information that we're digesting now with a colleague. So in the chat, when you're working with AI, describe how you would deal with AI fiction or an AI bias. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. So again, it's okay if you don't have 100% sure answer, but using kind of what we talked about, come up with one strategy that you might want to use to deal with an AI fiction, hallucination, or a bias. Some answers come in. Oh, I love that idea of asking for some subjects that they're studying in class and then like discussing the AI answers with students. That's a great way to test student knowledge, to get students to think critically about AI, to model thinking critically about AI systems. And I totally agree that AI systems should be audited for bias and quality. 100% on board with that. And I know a lot of really smart people are working on fixing these systems, making them less biased, but it's a huge undertaking. And we're hoping every day that these systems are getting better, but this is something we're going to have to be discussing with students for a long time. It's a key aspect of AI literacy and getting students to be critical of really anything that they're seeing from the internet. Yeah, teaching students the importance of representation in development teams, that's huge. Teams have to be, people working on these teams have to come and understand these biases, be trained on them, and understand different life perspectives. 100% agree with that. Awesome. All right. Like before, if you're still typing your answer, feel free to throw it in the chat, but we're going to move on. So Pam hopefully gets a few minutes to talk about what she needs to talk about. So what do we do? Here's a few tips. Let's start with fictions because they're easier to address. AI biases are a little harder for us to address in our classroom. First, exercise healthy skepticism. Don't assume that what the LLM is producing is true. If something is surprising or if the topic is obscure, reserve your trust. Fact check it. Just like anything else on the internet, check your sources. Check a couple of different facts. Double check what you're seeing on a large language model. It's a great starting point. But just like I'm sure many of you were told when Wikipedia first came out, don't take it at face value. Always double check it. And it's a great idea to reprompt. By reprompt, I just mean ask the LLM, like, are you sure about that? Try again, rephrase the question, see if it comes up with a different answer, and use data literacy skills. Really thinking critically, reading closely, practice all of those good skills with large language models, and use a variety of tools. Don't just rely on one large language model or just AI in general. Use other tools. For biases, really the things we can do is just assume all AI systems are biased. Consider how the data is biased and assume when you're talking about these that someone in the room is a data point, meaning someone in the room is one of the data points that was maybe left out of this conversation, was one of the outliers that the data was clean to remove. Keep in mind that everybody you're talking to has different perspectives on what you're looking at, and be sensitive of those when you're talking about and discussing biases in AI. All right. That concludes my section of this presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Pam. I hope I gave you enough time to talk about what you need to talk about today.
And this is essentially entering into the phase of more resources. I already know someone already said in the chat, oh my gosh, I need a week already with these resources. Well, here's more. And then after that, hopefully we'll also have some time for like Q&A. We could like look at things in the chat, talk to them. I don't think folks can come off mute, so we'll just like read and look at the Q&A. So next slide, please. So TeachAI is an initiative. My name is Pam. I'm based out of code.org, but I work essentially all the time on a multi-organization initiative. Many of the organizers actually of National AI Literacy Day are also part of the initiative. TeachAI wants to help education leaders, education systems rethink education in an age of AI. And for us, this means not only thinking about how we teach with AI, what it means to use AI in our education systems, but precisely to the theme of National AI Literacy Day, that in order to do all of that successfully, to be able to really thoughtfully engage, use new innovative tools in how we teach, we also have to teach about AI. We also have to understand what AI is in order to be able to not just be users of it, but thoughtful users as well as creators, et cetera. So code.org, ETS, ISTE, Khan Academy, and the World Economic Forum are the 5 education nonprofits that are helping to lead this multi-organization initiative. Next slide, please. And these are the many, almost 100 now organizations who are education leaders, technology leaders, ed tech leaders, who are coming together to build shared resources as we dive further and further into this exploration. So again, a shout out to the organizers of National AI Literacy Day, who were also engaged in the TeachAI initiative. Wonderful work on AI Literacy Day. Thank you for contributing to TeachAI. Next slide, please. And this is the roadmap of the types of things that TeachAI works on together across organizations to build shared understanding, to build shared resources in this space. And then I'm going to focus on the two in black because those are the resources that have launched already. You can see them when you visit teachai.org. But we have other resources coming out focused on, for example, the future of computer science education in an age of AI, as well as a whole bunch of resources related to AI literacy to come. Next slide, please. So the resources that have launched so far from TeachAI are somewhat focused on guidance and policy. One of the resources is called the AI Guidance for Schools Toolkit. If you are an education leader, a systems leader thinking, okay, I'm thinking about my teachers. I also need to think about students. I also need to think about parents. I need to understand what it means when AI interacts with my entire education system. What is some initial guidance, initial thinking? How do I wrap my head around all the multitude of issues? The guidance toolkit aims to help you with that. Sample letters, sample guidance, principles for thinking through these issues. So that's available at teachai.org/toolkit. And again, a theme of the way the initiative works is these are shared resources developed by multiple organizations together to bring in diverse perspectives and build better quality resources. So that's the guidance toolkit. Next slide, please. And the resource we just launched this week is called Foundational Policy Ideas for AI in Education. This is more policy oriented. It's available at teachai.org/policy. But next slide, I'm just going to jump. There are a bunch of briefs that, of course, we hope are helpful to policymakers that they think, what? AI in education? What are you talking about? What does that even mean? It helps distill some of the key issues that policymakers should be aware of. But we have 3 briefs that are about understanding AI's educational implications, one-pagers back and front. And then next slide, please. There is one brief called What is AI? As you're thinking of building AI literacy, highly recommend the use of this brief, this one-pager for simple definitions, reflections that AI is not new, what history does it build off of, et cetera. So that brief is available at teachai.org/policy. Next slide, please. For example, definitions for AI, why it's important to understand the nuance of some of these issues that, and Micah did a fantastic job raising so many of those today. Next slide, please. Common misconceptions about AI. There's so much misinformation out there. And so in this same one-pager that I'm referring to, the What is AI one-pager, it highlights some of these common misconceptions. If you need to put something on a superintendent's desk, on a principal's desk, et cetera, we hope that these briefs feel somewhat accessible. Next slide, please. Oh, and then I'm done. That was fast. We have 10 minutes, 10 whole minutes for questions. But Micah, I also know you have a ton of other resources. Do we want to do that first and then leave room for questions? What do you think?
Yeah, let me do that first.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'll put a ton of things in the chat.
Yeah, you're probably already overwhelmed. But I want to make sure that you know about some awesome resources to dive into. We have our code.org has an AI 101 for teachers website link. This is a great resource. There's a professional learning series and teaching resources, and a lot of the things you saw on the slide deck are there. Really wanting to enhance teaching practices and student learning with AI. There are opportunities to delve deeper into the understanding of mechanisms of AI, learn to safely integrate AI tools into your classroom, protect students from risks like misinformation, privacy loss, bias, and make responsible use of AI part of the educational experience. We have a 5-part webinar series, which has a ton of great information for teachers. We recommend that you take a look at these, share these, check out these videos. And even more exciting, partly because I've been working on it for the past few months, is we are launching AI 101 self-paced professional learning experience for teachers and educators alike. So this is designed for administrators, technology specialists, librarians, as well as K-12 teachers. So even elementary school teachers, there's a lot here that you can dive into. This is launching in about a month. So this is going to be a 5-hour self-paced professional learning experience where you get the chance to earn certificates. So hopefully your districts can count these as professional development opportunities as teachers. We go through introducing AI for educators, understanding AI, transforming teaching, bringing it to the classroom, and ensuring a responsible approach. And all of this will be on the AI 101 website when it launches in mid-May. So I'm really excited for this to make its way out into the public. And now, Pam, do you want to go through your links?
I was just reiterating because I assumed, links. So again, teachai.org/toolkit. I put it into the chat and I described it a bit. This is Micah kindly shared resources that I think for educators to help understand AI a little bit more. The resources that I'm sharing are more about understanding AI through an education systems perspective. So teachai.org/toolkit. And then I think I have one more. Yep. And then the policy one. So /policy that has briefs about understanding AI's educational implications. What is AI? Classroom perspectives on AI, impacts of AI on education and the workforce. Yeah. Thank you, Lori. Shout out. Okay, so now we have 8 minutes for questions. Micah, that was fantastic. I enjoyed that very much.
Thank you. And that was a ton of great information.
I'm trying to pull through. I tried to answer some of the questions that came in as you were talking. Someone did ask privately, we titled this session AI 101. Do you have any recommendations for educators who are trying to get to AI 201 and what that means and like what that could look like? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I know it's a hard space right now because really what we're trying to do is just get everybody, as many people as possible, to that 101 level. So if you're like really feeling solid on your AI experiences, I'm saying new resources are coming out every day. So just stay tapped in. ITSE has a great AI community there of AI teachers who are really involved in AI. So if you're not a member of ITSE, ISTE organization, I recommend checking them out and their online community. I know there's some educators who are doing like some advanced work, which I can try to drop some of their names in the chat so you can try to see what they're up to and what they're working on. But really just keep up with the latest news. After this AI 101 series at code.org is launched, we are working on 102, so 201, kind of whatever that next step looks like, which will get into more things like hopefully like prompting, more things like really honing in on your AI skills, really building your understanding of how AI systems work. A little bit TBD on what the need is there. So we're not sure of what that's going to look like, but it will be specific for educators. So more stuff to come.
And then we just got a question from George. George, thank you for your question. And this is from the systems perspective around like thinking about change management for schools. That's actually something that we try to highlight a lot in the toolkit as education systems are thinking about grappling with AI resources to look at. I highly recommend looking at the first page of the toolkit. It has a very, very, very light framework. That being said, I saw a really cool webinar happening as part of AI Literacy Day, where I think 4 or 5 like superintendents are coming together to talk about their approach to like AI through their education systems. I think it's happening. Oh, it's happening in 5 minutes. Oh no, we have 5 minutes. Thank you. I would check that out because I think learning from how other districts are approaching it is a really good way to dive in as well and think how they're approaching change management. Let me comb through to look for some more questions that I may have not been able to address. It was really light, but someone asked, you had mentioned maybe Stack Overflow in some sort of context, Micah. Can you clarify what that was?
Yeah, it's basically just a place to go for programmers to ask questions of each other. So it usually historically has gotten a ton of traffic because like you can throw like there's just a ton of people on that website who are really ready to answer everything from like the very intro beginning questions to like really advanced questions. But with things like ChatGPT becoming available and GitHub has a Copilot feature. GitHub is another big programming platform. So you're getting AI assistive coding coming in and traffic on those websites have like really just decreased as people are getting those collaborative needs met in another fashion, which is really fascinating shift. I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but it's really interesting to look at those shifts.
The shift. We are through the TeachAI initiative. One of our projects is specifically looking at the future of computer science education. And I saw from our Who's in the Room, there's some computer science educators who joined us here today. It is really interesting to think. And it's really not just on engineering as a career, like how we are able to effectively use tools will have impacts on how all professionals work, probably across all careers. So that's why AI literacy is, beyond computer science, but we are doing a deep dive into like what this means for how we teach CS to kids, and therefore what it will look like for the future. Naz asked a question, what do you think of replacing? I can answer personally. I think education and schools and all the amazing educators we have on with us today, we do so much more than quote unquote pass on knowledge or pass on skills. Like it's institutes where we create society, create people, create communities. I can't personally imagine a world where we would be replacing human teach like ever. And I think the majority of surveys that have come out that the majority of the world also agrees, like a goal here is not to be creating humanoid teachers. It's really how do we use it as a tool to empower educators, to support educators and support students. So 100% do not agree with that vision, but I don't know, Mike, do you have thoughts?
My thoughts align with you. I could not imagine a school without teachers. It's so pivotal to the whole learning process. But I do think we're going to see more differentiation through AI. And I'm really excited about kind of how we can use AI to help meet the needs of all students in our classrooms better, just because I wish instead of AI, we had a 1-to-1 student to teacher ratio, but I know that's not possible, but maybe AI will help us get some of those benefits.
Exactly. And then another one came in through the Q&A, and I know we have 2 minutes. An anonymous attendee in May is going to meet with staff to discuss AI. Some folks are just beginning. Some folks want to like understand a little bit more deeply, building with AI, like building their own kind of chatbot things. Like, what is a good resource for being able to address that diversity of audiences maybe in one go? I was thinking of the AI 101 prompts link that you shared, Micah. We will make sure that those prompts are shared out in the follow-up, because I think it has advanced, middle and beginner. So if you're with a bunch of staff who might be in different places and their AI understanding and AI interest, that AI 101 prompting guide has something I think for everyone. And then I think will be emailed out in the follow-up.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, there's like a 30-second countdown. It's giving me anxiety. Is it just going to end? Okay, someone's back.
Yeah, we're good.
To rescue us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you so much. Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you so much, Micah. This has been really fascinating. And like we said, this is going to be shared in a follow-up email with everyone who registered. So it's going to be the recording of this and all the resources that they shared. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and happy AI Literacy Day.